Hello friends, this video on electric charges and fields part 9 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Please make sure that you have watched all the videos till part 8 before going ahead with part 9. Now let us suppose that I have two charts. Since I am going to talk about the vector form, let us consider everything graphically. That will help you to understand it easily. Let us suppose I have two charges, say Q1 and Q2. Let us suppose this is Q1 and this is Q2. So these are the two charges. Let me denote this point as A and this point as D. So what defines the position of point A? To define the position of point A, we will need a position vector. So I already have this position vector drawn. These are the two position vectors which defines the position of A and B. Let us say this is R1, let us say this is R2. So these are the position vectors from the origin. This is your x-axis and this is your y-axis. So you have these two charges Q1 and Q2. Now you have to find out the force of interaction or the electrostatic force between A and B. A and B is nothing but the two charges Q1 and Q2. So first of all, let us calculate force on Q1. Let us focus on one charge first. So force on Q1. So force on Q1 due to Q2. So how do we denote that? So we denote it like this. F12. It is vector. So this is vector. F12 means force on 1 due to 2. Because the force on this particular charge will be because of the other charge, that is Q2. So for F12 will be equal to, I defined force in the previous slide according to Coulomb's law, that is equal to K into product of the charges Q1, Q2 divided by distance between them. So what is the distance between them? The distance between them is this one. Right, so this is the distance between them. Let us call this as R12. Let us say this is the distance between them. This whole square, this is the magnitude of this distance to R12 unit vector. This denotes the direction that the force will act along this direction. Similarly, if we write the expression for force on Q2, that is force on the charge Q2. So in that case, what will happen? F21, that is force on 2 due to 1, will be equal to K Q1 Q2 divided by R21 whole square into R21 unit vector, right? Now when I talk about R12 and R21, what is the difference between both of them? R12 will act along this direction, R21 will act along this direction. That is the only difference, right? So magnitude wise, basically R12 is equal to R21 if I compare only the magnitude. Now if I compare both magnitude as well as direction, in that case R12 will be equal to minus R21, right? Why is it so? Because graphically you can just say that yeah, the direction will be opposite. If you want to see it mathematically, you can do that also. When I talk of R12, it is in this direction. So using the vector law of addition, you can say that R2 will be equal to R1 plus R12. So R12 will be equal to R2 minus R1, right? Similarly, if you talk about R21, it will be in this direction. So R21, in that case, the vector law of addition will get reversed. So it will become minus R2 minus R1. I mean, I am not doing that because I am leaving it up to you, because I have repeatedly and exhaustively explained you the vector laws of addition. So I hope you will be able to do it, right? So we can say that R12 is equal to minus R21. Therefore, what is this unit vector? Now, unit vector R12 is equal to the vector R12 divided by the magnitude of R12. Similarly, the unit vector R21 is equal to the vector R21 divided by the magnitude of R21, right? So, using these two relations, we can say that unit vector r12 and unit vector r21, they are also equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. So if we compare these two expressions, if you compare expression 1 and expression 2, you can say that f12 is equal to minus f21. That is because from this we get r12 is equal to minus r21. So using this, we conclude this. That means force on 1 due to 2 is equal to the force on 2 due to 1 but opposite in direction. So that is what we conclude from the vector form of Coulomb's law. Because when we talked about it in vector form, we came to know about the direction as well. Because magnitude wise, force on 1 due to 2 is equal to force on 2 due to 1. But when we compare the direction as well, the direction is opposite. Right? So this is what we concluded. So from this, we arrive at certain conclusion. The first conclusion is Coulomb's law agrees with Newton's law. Right? Just now I told you, force on 1 due to 2 is equal to force on 2 due to 1 but opposite in direction. Do you remember Newton's third law? What does it say? It says that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Right? So that means if you have two objects, 1 and 2, if one slaps 2, then 2 will also slap 1. So the intensity of the slap will be same in both the cases, but the direction will be opposite, right? So that was Newton's law. So even here also, if you have two charges, 1 and 2, if charge 1 exerts a force F12 on charge 2, then charge 2 will also exert a force F but in the opposite direction. That is what we concluded in the previous slide, that is F12 is equal to minus F21. So from this, it clearly agrees with Newton's third law. Also, it tells that like charges repel and opposites attract. We already knew this fact, right? Coulomb's law also agreed to this, stating that, this is how Coulomb's law stated that how efficient or how effective the law is, because it is agreeing to Newton's law, which is already an accepted law. Similarly, it is it is satisfying the known fact that like charges repel and opposite charges attract. How? Let us see that. See, according to Coulomb's law, in general we can write force on any object 2 due to another charge 1 will be equal to K Q1 Q2 divided by R21 square R21 unit vector, right? So let us suppose if we have two charges Q1 and Q2 which has the same nature of charge. That means let us suppose if both are positive in nature. In that case, what happens? If I talk about the force on 2 due to 1, this is my 2 and this is 1 in this case. So force on 2 due to 1, what will happen? Since both are positive, they will try to move away from each other. So the force on 1 due to 2 will act along the line joining them but in this direction. So this will be the direction of force on 2 due to 1. Force on this object due to 1 will be along this direction because 1 will try to push 2 away from it because both are positively charged, right? So the force which 1 will exert on 2 will be away from itself. So 1 will try to push 2 away from itself. So the force on 2 due to 1 will be in this direction. Similarly, let us suppose we have two charges Q1 and Q2 which have opposite charges. Let's say one is positive and the other one is negative. If we have this kind of scenario. So in this case, this is my Q1, this is my 2. So they are of opposite nature. So in this case, what will be the force on 2 due to 1? In this case, 1 will try to pull 2 towards itself because it is opposite in nature. So 1 will try to pull 2 towards itself. So the direction of F21 will be along this direction. So F21 is force on 2 due to 1. That means 1 is exerting this force. So 1 will exert the force towards itself if 2 is of opposite nature, right? Okay, so this was all about Coulomb's law. I mean, Coulomb's law is not a very big thing. I mean, obviously it is a very important thing in physics, but it is not at all very complicated. It is a very simple, straightforward law. It just tells 2 or 3 things which you need to remember. It talks about the force between 2 point charges. It says it is directly proportional to the product of the charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Right? Now let us look at the limitation of the Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law applies when the point charges are placed in vacuum. Firstly, it applies for point charges, that is charges whose dimensions are very small. Secondly, it applies when the charges are placed in vacuum. That means there is no material medium as such. Because if material medium comes into play, if the charges are placed in some kind of matter, then there will be charges in the medium as well, because if the medium is vacuum, that means there is nothing in the medium. Nothing means there is no matter in the medium, no charges in the medium. But whenever the medium becomes a matter, right, medium is not vacuum means medium has something. So medium has something means that something is matter, and that will again have electrons and protons, so they will have charges. So there will be charges present in the medium as well. Right now we are considering that force on 1 due to 2 is only due to 2. There is no other charge in the surrounding. But if the medium also has charges, then the effect of those charges also need to be considered. So Coulomb's law didn't facilitate the consideration of those charges as well. So Coulomb's law applies only for scenarios where the point charges are placed in vacuum. Now you might think, then what will happen if it is not placed in vacuum? We will discuss about those scenarios as well as we go into the next lesson. There are certain things which I am postponing for the next lesson. You do remember, even I will remember, and I won't forget and skip them when I teach you the next lesson. So for now, this is all about Coulomb's law. Thank you. Please visit examfear.com to watch free educational videos, try free online tests, get the best quality study materials, study from the best tutors and mentors, and much more. Thank you once again.